House Minority Leader Kevin McCarthy had some sort of meeting where he had to be the adult in the room and had to basically try to persuade Republican lawmakers to stop the infighting. So 10 Republicans in the House of Representatives voted in favor of impeaching Donald Trump after the Capitol riots took place. And one of the more prominent Republicans who did that was Representative Liz Cheney. And she's getting a lot of backlash as a result of that. And so Kevin McCarthy calls this meeting and he tells them to cut that crap out. No more attacks on one another, he said. And by the way, one GOP lawmaker who spoke to the press after the meeting, but of course decided to remain anonymous, said that Kevin McCarthy said the only thing that can stop us from taking the majority is us, which is kind of true. If Democrats don't provide the relief that Americans need, it's gonna be incredibly easy for Republicans to take charge of the House and the Senate, considering the small, slim majority that Democrats have. Now, Trump's defenders in the conference are trying to oust Representative Liz Cheney from her leadership position, according to CNN, while Cheney's backers are confident that they can beat back that effort, though the topic did not surface on Wednesday's call, according to sources familiar with the matter. Now, what's amazing about all of this is that today, Matt Gaetz from Florida held a rally against Liz Cheney in her own state of Wyoming. Because that's how Republicans play. They play dirty. I mean, he's disgusting, but he has decided that this is the political path he wants to take. This is gonna be the most beneficial political path for him, and he's going in that direction. He holds this rally, trying to hold Liz Cheney accountable for having the audacity of impeaching Donald Trump for provoking insurrectionists. And Don Jr., by the way, called into the rally, and Matt Gaetz held the phone to the microphone so he can spew his nonsense. But there's something to learn from this. Before I get to my thoughts, Woz, I want to hear yours.
You know, I think this is instructive for a couple of reasons. The McCarthys, the McConnells, Paul Ryan is now, in the private sector, but the Paul Ryan types, the Mitt Romney type of Republicans, they are not the animating force of the conservative movement and the Republican Party, which is the vessel by which they exert power, right? Mitch McConnell and Mitt Romney can't get people to the Capitol for a protest. They can't move people in that way. The energy of the Republican Party is with the Gaetz types. Like, it's with the crazies, and they know that, right? Like, they know that they actually leverage the will of the base of the party. Like, the country club Republicans, y'all not the people who these people want to listen to. Yes, you guys happen to be at the levers of the actual power. To be sure, you are for now. But the animating force of the Republican Party is behind these other type of Republicans, and they're very aware of that, right? Like, the type of people who can get Proud Boys to show up somewhere are not Mitt Romney Republicans. Like, it's not you guys, it's these other cats, these QAnon cats who will get people energized enough to mobilize and do things. That's the difference, and that's why they can move how they move.
It's so depressing, but I think that you're right. I think you're absolutely right. The QAnon conspiracy theorists, the whatever the Tea Party morphed into, it's not a fringe movement. Unfortunately, these are the types of people who do energize the party. Matt Gaetz knows that, and he's capitalizing on it for his own political benefit. But what I thought was really fascinating was just the fact that Kevin McCarthy holds this meeting, tells them to cut that crap out. And immediately after that, Matt Gaetz is like, yeah, I'll cut the crap out. I'm going to Wyoming. So he goes to Wyoming, he holds this rally. And all I could think about was how jealous I was that we don't have anyone in the Democratic Party who's willing to do something similar, right? So I thought about Joe Manchin, and I thought about how badly I would want to go to West Virginia. I would go to West Virginia. And I know that he's not up for re-election anytime soon, doesn't matter. The whole point is to fire up the constituents in West Virginia and let them know that Joe Manchin, your senator, doesn't want to get you economic relief, guys. doesn't want to get you those checks, doesn't want to get you unemployment benefits. You guys were pretty bad off. Like, you guys weren't doing well even before the pandemic. 50% of you were already living in poverty. Now the situation's far worse, and the vast majority of you actually want this relief, and Joe Manchin's standing in your way. Hold a rally, do it. But Democrats don't do that kind of stuff. And it's just,
no, they like to pillow fight. That's the Democratic Party way, is to pillow fight and say, oh, I can win with ideas and this and that. And
we don't need Dave Rubins in the party.
Right. It's nonsense. It's this fake high-mindedness that is part of the party. And again, I think it does speak to generally the type of voters that they prefer to court, which I think we'll get into later on about GOP bleeding support. And we know what type of support they're bleeding, right? And I think the type of support that Democratic Party leaders would rather court are white collar people who, let's face it, are probably more inclined to not really be worried about how the stimulus goes one way or another. And that's why I don't think they have the urgency, right? Like, if they felt beholden to the people who were the worst off in this country, you would see a fire under their behinds, Brett. Instead, what you see is this meek, mealy-mouthed nonsense that you see, Anna.
Absolutely. And Liz Cheney's response to Matt Gaetz was just hilarious. And it's just not, it didn't land. Through a spokesperson, she released some sort of statement. Representative Gaetz can leave his beauty bag at home. In Wyoming, the men don't wear makeup. The source linked to a video of Gaetz talking about putting makeup on for a television appearance, which, I mean, I don't know, it might land with some people, but I thought it was kind of weak considering, he showed up to your house. And he did it shamelessly, doesn't care at all. And there are some far right wingers who are already planning on challenging Liz Cheney, primarying her because she's not loyal enough to Donald Trump. By the way, just to give you some important statistics regarding economic relief and where Republican voters stand, by the way, on this issue. The base still supports Donald Trump, even after the riots took place, even after all the instability, the economic chaos, the inability to properly respond to the pandemic. They don't care. Most Republicans still back Donald Trump, and 72% of Republicans continue to believe that his falsehood that President Joe Biden won the 2020 presidential election due to voter fraud, and that's according to a Monmouth University poll. Also, a GOP state senator, Anthony Bouchard, has announced that he is going to run against Liz Cheney in 2022, and over 50,000 people apparently signed a change.org petition to recall Liz Cheney. So it goes to show you that Matt Gaetz is unfortunately reading the tea leaves, and it's not about liking Trump, it's about liking himself and wanting more for his career, and this is the direction that he's going to go in. But to just quickly give you some stats on West Virginia and where people stand on the issue of relief checks. So as I mentioned earlier, West Virginia is one of the poorest states. Half of them were already struggling, prior to the pandemic. Right now, as we speak, more than half of West Virginians are struggling to pay for basic expenses. So obviously, economic relief is something that would be popular with them. The appeal also found that nationwide, 80% of voters, including 2/3 of Republican voters, support a $2,000 relief check. Again, you see this disconnect between voters and our representatives. And it's because we forget about the third person in the bed, and that third person is the donor, right? They don't want to have to worry about raising taxes in the future. They don't want to spend money on a relief package. They're the ones who keep pushing for austerity behind the scenes, and that is, I think the elephant in the room that needs to be addressed.
Thanks for watching the Young Turks. We really appreciate it. Another way to show support is through YouTube memberships. You'll get to interact with us more. There's live chat emojis, badges. You've got emojis of me, Anna, John, JR. So those are super fun. But you also get playback of our exclusive member-only shows and specials right after they air. So all of that, all you gotta do is click that join button right underneath the video. Thank you.